Welcome to the LIAISE COST Action Podcast, connecting mind, empowering industrial symbiosis.
Hi everyone, welcome to our one-shot podcast of LIAISE COST Action. In this episode, we aim to explore the importance of ESG reporting. My name is Lucas Gerhardt and I'm the expert in the industry field. And here we have our distinguished guests. Please welcome yourselves.
Hello, I am Eva Jaderna. I am Deputy Head of Department of Marketing and Management. My research field is CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility, Sustainability, and now ESG reporting as well.
Hello everybody, my name is Jiri Strouhal. I am from the Department of Financial and Accounting of Škoda Auto University, as well as I'm the Head of Accounting Research at Taltech School of Business and Governance. Within LIAISE COST Action, I am also serving as Scientific Communication Officer and Chair of Working Group number 4. As per my expertise, it's more in accounting, financial reporting, and ESG reporting as well. So good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for introduction and kindly welcome here. I'm very honored to have you here and interview about the ESG, which strikes me now is the most, I would say, discutative topic in all the management spheres and all the companies fields. I would like to know, first of all, how would you describe ESG in a simple sentence to someone who never thought about it?
Okay, so I was focused on green marketing first, then sustainability or corporate social responsibility, and the reporting in these areas. And I think it's very similar. So we have the economic pillar or some economic activities in sustainability. Then the social pillar with activities like diversity, inclusivity, and etc. And then the third part of ESG reporting and the CSR reporting as well, which is environmental area. And in this case, I think every activity should be in ESG reporting, but quantified. So we can say that it's something what businesses do, SMEs as well, but they should report about it and quantify these activities they provide, from my point of view.
From my point of view, I completely agree with Eva, but what shall be also pointed out that historically it started as a bottom-up activity. Mm-hmm. Now, based on those regulations, through European Union, on the European Union level, it looks like top-down activity. So it shall be really done, it shall be reported. Of course, I have no doubt that all those companies who used to be reporting under non-financial reporting directive, or for large companies, of course, it makes a huge sense. But it's really questionable from the perspective of administrative burden, what shall be measured and reported by SMEs, especially from the perspective of small companies, not necessarily from the perspective of medium-sized ones.
Mm-hmm. If you are talking, I'll just continue a follow-up on your bottom-up and top-down approach. You said that you don't think that it is necessary to have this like strict approach from the European Union to have a directive approach to non-financial reporting standards to have every company in the field we have. Did I understand it correctly?
Not let's say 400%, but basically before that it was the voluntary activity, because for companies it really made sense to do so. Of course, some years ago, actually 10 plus, when we did some research with one of my colleagues, we tried to test whether or who is doing this CSR reporting, if those companies are performing better than those who are not doing so. So yes, it was rather the topic for profitable businesses. Now, actually, there is a strong pressure for all companies that they have to fulfill all those ESG reporting regulations. When it used to be just CSR reporting, it wasn't such strictly linked also to financial data. That now we do have there the concept of double materiality. When we will be joined by Mr. Horak, he will talk for sure a bit more about this topic, how to test it from both financial perspective and non-financial perspective. And now we have a huge set of KPI indicators which shall be somehow followed. Of course, it's not about that all companies are supposed to report all 800, 900 KPIs for E, S, or G part, but still I have to select quite a significant number of all those indicators. Makes sense, of course, to discuss it before with audit company because they are providing that assurance on my report. And afterwards, of course, there would be that follow-up with how I am fulfilling those criteria. Before that, it was more about storytelling in the field of, let's say, environment and social. That governance part, I don't think that it was such strongly linked to CSR reports. But I guess it really depends from our perspective whether I'm right in this area.
Yeah, so we can say that governance is something like the economic pillar of CSR reporting, and we can say that it was really about relationships with our suppliers and the buyers, and about the transparency as well. And in governments, we would like to report about these activities as well. So I think it's very similar. So ESG reporting, I can say that it's really equal to CSR reporting. If I consider activities which are mentioned in ESG reporting, it's very similar. And I think something is very complicated to quantify. For example, KPIs for diversity, inclusivity, or patriotism, and the support of, for example, the regional development or social development in a region is very complicated to quantify. And from my point of view, the major problem is that it's really not voluntary activity like at the previous time. And many businesses, I think in the Czech Republic is about 1,000 businesses now, which should report these activities from 2024. So it's very complicated for them to quantify everything and to have enough data for the quantification of these activities. So this is my point of view of this activity or CSRD directive from European Union.
From the history perspective, I think that 10 years back, the ESG it's starting to be used in the companies, mostly CSR documentation, was seen as a competitive advantage. The company that used it had the advantage. The products were sold more, company were more successful. How can we sustain the competitive advantage and yet made the ESG mandatory thing?
I can say that first, it was maybe competitive advantage on B2B market because it's necessary to have a sustainable supply chain. So it's something very, very important. But from the point of view of B2C, I'm not sure that it's a really competitive advantage because if you have a label of some certification, it's nice, but not so important for our decision making during the buying behavior. And we have some reports or results from researchers, and they are really concerned on the perception of sustainability and sustainable product. And I'm not sure that Czech people would like to buy only sustainable product, and from businesses which are focused on sustainability. So maybe it's the problem with the B2C market. But back to the question. So I think the ESG report will be a really long, complex one. So I'm not sure that somebody will read it. What do you think?
Maybe what you have mentioned, it's also a question of generations. Because mostly all those researches tells that, let's say, Generation Z, afterwards definitely Alpha, or now from this year, I guess we have even Beta generation, that they will care more and more. But of course, it's questionable. Okay, they are caring more about sustainability. I guess for them, yes, maybe it's one of the key players in terms of their final decision whether to purchase certain product in case it would be on comparable price or not, if there would be some labeling. Questionable is if I can trust to all those labels, whether if there is some certificate, if it's just not purchase, but it's really some story and results behind. But yes, in terms of reading all those reports, just imagine that you are really focusing on all sustainable products. I don't think that you have time to read all reports of all those producers, because afterwards you wouldn't have any time for even going to work. So this might be also the issue. So in case that there would be, let's say, some flash summaries, but okay, now we have AI, so I guess even if I will put a certain ESG report to some AI tool to make me some summary afterwards, yes, I can read it, let's say 2-3 pages, and afterwards I can decide. What you have mentioned, of course, nobody can underestimate, especially in certain markets, price sensitivity. So on B2C, really, who is my target customer? On the other hand, in case I am doing sustainable products, especially based on circular economy or industrial symbiosis, probably I'm targeting to different group of customers, comparing that I am a local bakery, where it doesn't matter if I will purchase roll for, I don't know, 10, 15 cents or 18 cents. And the question is how, let's say, eco-friendly was grown the wheat, or how friendly I was to cows or another animals. So this is it from this perspective.
So if I'm getting this right, the pillar we're talking about, the environmental pillar, is gonna be probably the strongest one and the most focused one?
Actually, maybe this is the major problem, that everybody sees under that ESG mostly that E part, and even those consulting businesses who are offering their expertise for the preparations of ESG reports, they are really strongly focusing on E. Nobody cares so much about SNG. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, for example, even from Czech perspective, I don't think that S is such problematic. That basically imagine number of days of vacation by law, and what is offered by companies. Always it's at least plus 5 days, because that's basically the business standard here in the country. So I guess that, let's say, the work-life balance from this perspective basically works well. Even, let's say, the linkage of companies with communities, especially in case it used to be that bottom-up activity, again, it worked pretty well. So I guess that SNG, it's not such problematic, but the problem is that the majority of all those companies are a bit stressed that, let's say, they see the strong pressure from that E side, and nobody tells them that, okay, there is some SNG, and of course, despite there are 5 standards on E part, some of them we may avoid to a certain extent. Of course, I have to fulfill all five of them, but I would be affected strongly, let's say, by 1 or 2 of them, not by all 5. So I believe it wouldn't be such problematic.
From the perspective of Czech consumers or consumers in general, I think that, or we have some results from researchers as well, and it's about the sustainability and emotions from sustainability and associations to sustainability, how they feel it. So first, it's the environmental aspect. For example, they would like to have environmentally friendly products. It was, I think, more than 80% of Czech consumers consider sustainability to environmental aspects. And some of them, I think it was about 10 or 20% in each. So it was about the respect for human rights, for example. So if we consider aspects like the child labor in Shein, so it's something what can influence the decision making. For example, my daughter attended a movie about Shein and the child labor and the bad conditions during the production process, and she was really surprised and upset that she provided one order 1 week ago. So it's something what can influence really the younger generation first, I think. And these aspects are more and more visible and discussed in these days. So I think the S and G in ESG reporting is important as well for B2C and for B2B. It's something what's very, very important in decision if the supplier is the best one for the supply chain or not. And they would like to maybe support these small SMEs to be more sustainable, to be sure that their sustainable supply chain will be provided or organized. So it's something, or managed. And therefore, I think it's very important for not only businesses, above 250 employees. I think it's this limit from the CSRD directive, but I think it's for the whole supply chain as well. Very important to
strike my mind with focusing on Czech customers, how they perceive it, and by the work-life balance, we have a standard on the Czech Republic. So my question is, can these measures be different in each cultures? Because every culture have a different type of work-life balance, and also the side of the S, that means the rights, the pay gaps, the diversity and inclusion. So does a culture play a role in this?
I think so.
Probably it shall. Basically CSRD, it's for EU companies. Of course, in the future, there are expectations that it shall be fulfilled for even non-EU companies which are part of supply chain. But generally, even on the European level, let's say there are some differences between, let's say, the working hours requirements, let's say in France, in Germany, for example, here in Czech Republic, or in different countries. So of course I have to fulfill the local standards, and of course it's also about the setting of the proper KPIs. So I have now the starting position. I have some target what I would like to achieve, and even from the audit point of view, I am checking in that long-term run whether they are fulfilling their aims or goals, or they are on the wrong path. So it's about how I will set my target, and of course afterwards that company is supposed to fulfill it, at least to a certain extent.
Do we know how the process of setting KPIs will gonna make the place?
Where or when?
Where
it shall be on the corporate level, but on the other hand, in terms of corporate level, it's questionable, because especially now, when we are dealing with companies which are either listed companies or large companies, of course, majority of them, of course, it depends country from country, they may have some international parent. So I assume it would be at that level of headquarters rather than on the headquarters of the local company. So it would be probably standardized for the whole group. Despite, of course, there might be some specific in certain fields, like, okay, in certain country there is obliged to work, I don't know, 45 hours per week, somewhere just 32. So, of course, I cannot tell them that the standard would be 40. Because for one country it's too much, for another country you have to add some more. Yeah, so there would be probably some country specifics which shall affect those KPIs, but it would be probably standardized, or it is, on the headquarters level for the whole group, because of course afterwards I need comparability even for the consolidated reports.
Yes, and this follow-ups next question perfectly. If you are talking about corporate level, what fields of the business will be most affected probably by the ESG standards set on?
So I think it's necessary to start with the strategy of sustainability and then to set KPIs and activities in each pillar or areas of CSR reporting or now ESG reporting. So I think it's necessary to have the philosophy and to set this philosophy on the corporate level, and then we can do it more in detail. So I would like to start with the philosophy and maybe with the feeling that it's voluntary, not so directive from European Union, and then we can do it and measure. And maybe we can start with the philosophy and then to continue with data we have in our information system. So then we can start to manage all these KPIs. And I'm not sure if it is possible to manage all maybe 700 KPIs, because it's nonsense from my point of view as a manager or a marketing manager. So it's something what can be very difficult for the top management to manage all these KPIs. So I think it's necessary to start with the philosophy, the strategy of sustainability, or with our data we have about these aspects we would like to mention in ESG report.
Yeah, because the question also is how many people will be dedicated in the company just for this ESG reporting, following up all those KPIs, etc. Because this is really not some work for 3-4 hours that I will write some report. This is really long-term activity. And for example, if I will assume that it's, for example, April of 2025, it's too late to start ESG reporting for 2025. This I can do maybe at the very beginning of February, or maybe at the beginning of March, but otherwise it's too late to be able to really follow from very beginning till the end all those important and relevant criteria, because of course some computations wouldn't be such difficult, but certain, especially CO2 path and especially certain E indicators might be quite challenging. How to calculate them, and of course there shall be the evaluation from the very beginning till the end, because theoretically I may calculate CO2 path of my every single employee day by day, how he can reach the work. Of course afterwards it depends whether he's walking or using public transport, car, which kind of car, electric, hybrid, normal car, etc., etc., and what if he is shifting or she is shifting from day to day, etc., etc. Yeah, so first of all, how HR supported, or how many people will focus on ESG reporting. Questionable also is because we are at the very beginning. Are there really experts or not? This is my major doubt. That this might be very problematic, because so far I don't think that across, and it's not the case of Czech Republic, I guess it's generally the case of a lot of European countries, that we have some specific fields or specific study programs for being expert in the area of ESG/ESG reporting. okay, I may focus on these areas within my, bachelor or master studies, but I don't think that there is some dedicated program just to study all those standards, etc., because it's basically brand new. And especially even from the perspective of SMEs, there's supposed to be the voluntary set or voluntary standard on ESG reporting. So this is, I guess, the music of the future. Questionable is how near the future is, because the initial requirement or initial expectations for listed SMEs were from 2026. On the other hand, there is some omnibus in European Parliament that it would be probably postponed for several years, even those limits or criterias will be way bigger than it was expected. So instead of 250, it shall be 1,000 employees, etc. So this is really what's considered as one of the major problems of SMEs, the strong administrative burden. Questionable is how it fits to that obvious cost versus benefit criterion. Yeah, so especially if I compare it to previous CSR reporting, this is really different level.
Yeah, I think many businesses were ready to start with ESG reporting because of the directive, and it was postponed, I think, on February this year. So they were ready, and now they discovered that it's not necessary. So it was maybe they were very surprised by this information, but the preparation or managing of ESG report is based on, I think, working group. Not only the top management can do it, and the working group is really from the whole company. So HR management is necessary to encourage to be part of this working group as well, to be sure that this social aspect will be well done, and then maybe controlling as well, and all these departments. And it's very complicated, I think, for businesses, and for these smaller businesses is really nonsense from my point of view to do it, because if we consider the price for ESG report by external entrepreneurship or some agencies, they provide it, so it's something
cost over benefit.
Yeah. So it's, I think I have heard about 700,000 crowns, Czech crowns, for this report, and it's really nonsense for small businesses. So I think it will be problem for suppliers in tier 1 or 2 in automobile industry, for example, for Škoda Auto. But I think they have a very good activity. They have questionnaire for their suppliers, these small suppliers, to be sure that they provide these activities and they could be in their supply chain, and it's something what can help them to provide something like ESG report to fill this questionnaire. We do it, and they can ask some other agencies to help them to fill this questionnaire as well. So I think maybe authorities like AutoSAP in automobile industry can help small businesses or SMEs to manage the ESG reporting as well, because they have the cooperation with the bigger companies, and so maybe it could be something like standards in the area or in the industry. So I hope it will be possible to reach this goal for SMEs as well.
Simply summarize this, it's that ESG report is so complex that it's hard to maintain it easily, because you have to learn how to do it precisely. That means we need experts, which we don't have, because field of studies in the ESG field is not quite developed, I would say. For example, in Czech Republic, I don't even know if there is a master's program, for example, that is in ESG.
Actually, for ESG, I think that there is one at the University of Economics and Business. I guess it's the Faculty of Finance and Accounting, and that, or maybe the Faculty of Business Administration, that they have some
secondary
ESG center. For example, here in Škoda Auto University now, for finance major, we have 3 dedicated subjects for ESG reporting, 2 for the bachelor level and 1 more expert-based on master level. In Estonia, what I know, for example, for Taltech, yes, we have it there as well for many years. And I guess generally in Northern Europe, this ESG/sustainability reporting, it's pretty well developed historically. Yeah, so it's many years in curricula of all those universities. Yeah, but for example, here it's in the Czech Republic, it's more developing. But let's wait 5 years. I guess we will have for sure these experts as well.
Yeah. Good thing is that the universities always reflect the business needs. And I think that the Prague University is kind of doing the strongest position because they're developing the optional or secondary major. And I know the ESG, but it's first year that we have it. But mostly I was like summarizing and thinking about that. We don't have experts, but we will need it to do it in near future. It's so complex. Probably no one is reading it. So who are the key stakeholders for it?
So
how would we define it, even though?
First, bank institute, they need it for their decision. So then maybe if you manage supply chain, you need this information. So they will read it to be or to be ready to have or manage their own ESG report. So in supply chain management is something what can be very, very crucial for decision making, I think.
So, okay.
Yeah, basically with banks agree because they are one of the major providers of finance for the company. And second, I believe that B2B market, definitely. Not sure about B2C. Okay, there are some C customers who will be interested in this area, but generally for B2B, because of course it's also the key for those general calls in case I'm searching for the new supplier. That of course even these ESG reports or requirements in terms of sustainability are required. On the other hand, for example, one German company, Paketa, they are the major parcel company for Temu. So when I asked them whether Temu cared about ESG, so they told no, they were the only partner who really didn't care whether we do some ESG activities or not. Because also this is something or it's now under the regulatory framework in Europe or more in European Union. But is it required in Asia, Africa, America? Doesn't matter if only US or general North and Southern America, Australia. So this is also something what probably makes sense to be more harmonized. But let's say nice thing is that harmonization, that let's say it would be somehow standardized. Questionable is whether all those requirements, whether they are too much compared to what's probably needed and required, but by all those stakeholders. Probably some simplification might be vital. Also, what I can imagine for the future, that there will be some industrial specific KPIs, that there will be some additional standards maybe, or some regulatory guidance, for example, for energy industry, wood industry, water, because that's very important source, of course, etc., etc. Despite for water, we have one specific E standard from CSRD. Yeah, so probably this would be the music of the future.
And maybe we have not mentioned stakeholders like employees, because from the point of view of employer branding, it could be a very interesting part of decision. If I would like to be in the company with some scandals or supporting these activities in social areas. So, for example, how they support the diversity and maybe equality and other these aspects. So, for employees, I'm not sure if they will read it in ESG report, but if they are considering these aspects, so it could be one possible or potential reader of ESG report as well. So from the point of view of employer branding, I see maybe, or I can imagine that they will be focused on these aspects. Yeah.
For example, if we have the CO2 emissions that should be calculated because it's strongly seen and focused from the European Union, how does one calculate the CO2 emissions if they have a supply chain from Asia? Because I know that the ESG should be mandatory for the larger companies in the European Union, but most of them probably have a supply chain outsourced from the Asia because lowering the costs makes the competent advantage in the market. But if they have it, should they? How do even they calculate it? If we have those supply chains,
They
have
should.
to. Yeah, that there is one standard which is really specific on value chain. So of course they have to request those data from their suppliers. Also with one colleague who is the provider of audit services for large company, or actually it wasn't audit services, it was just accountancy services. We discussed whether he's supposed to deliver them some information. So probably because of the double materiality, it's really questionable whether that invoice for accounting services it's such important in the percentage of total expenses or not, to which extent he's supposed to deliver certain data. But this shall be done per request from that company who is under the directive, which data I am supposed to deliver them as their supplier. Questionable is whether that company, as you mentioned, for example, from Asia, will be willing to provide them data or not. But they are supposed to do so.
Mm-hmm. So mandatory is the request, but the result is optional.
Yeah. Yes, I believe that we have to differ here between de jure and de facto.
Yeah.
De facto, probably they will issue there some information. De jure principles will be fulfilled. Questionably is to which extent I will trust to those data, but on the other hand, because of that assurance, that's the task for auditor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think here's the problem with the trust and the greenwashing then. Mm-hmm. If they will have a statement, we are sustainable and we have some numbers about our sustainability, many of investigators can reach the information or would like to have the right information from the practice of this business. And it could be a problem for these businesses that they are managing something like greenwashing. So it's something what can be very big risk from my point of view to make these statements with the data from China, for example.
Yeah.
Reputation is important. Yeah.
This is what we are talking about, consumer economy, more type of it, because we are supplying materials, producing and selling stuff. But now I would like to focus on circular economy, because this is like different field. I think that you agree with me that ESG for companies operating in a circular economy is going to be pretty easier to do so.
I think it's one part, a very important part of these CSR activities. I call it CSR because I'm marketer, but still it's in ESG reporting as well. In the environmental area, one part is circular economy, and it's something what can be a very important part, I think, from my point of view, of this pillar.
Yeah. I just can tell that basically I can agree that of course these companies are more, let's say, into these principles, same for both circular economy, industrial symbiosis based companies, that of course they have to fulfill all those criteria, but let's say in their strategy or general mindset, they have it in their DNA.
Yeah. So they just starting to be in this business just because they see the opportunity, not because it's directive and it's like strict event to it.
Actually, they started from the bottom. It's not that they are supposed to do something because it's the law. They are doing it because they want to do so. They are customers. They have their expectations, certain expectations from them. Yeah, so this is it.
And I think many of these activities, like the energy saving, etc., are or the circular economy, are money saving. So it's something what's really in DNA of the business to save money, and therefore they do it. So maybe in our household we would like to save energy as well because of the money.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
Makes
pretty
sense.
easy.
Yeah.
Friedman was right.
Yeah.
Only money matters.
Because I was thinking it from the perspective that we had the discussion before the podcast started. There are some companies that they're using the output from the process makers as their input, which makes them green even at the start point, as I said. But how would I, as an auditor, would look on the company? Because do I see that their input is basically trash, or do I see it as a material and I should calculate the emissions on it as well? It's like the double point of view from it. They exist because they extremely support the circular and waste-less production, but they also consuming energy by making it processes again. So I was thinking, how do I, as an ESG auditor, look at this company, because their material is basically what would be left? Do we have like opinion-based view on this?
I think we have it in our mindset, and it's good for an environment. So maybe it's a question to you how to how to manage the numbers.
Okay, so probably I will start from the very beginning. So I purchased some waste from another company, and this is, I guess, the starting point in terms of ESG measures for me. Yeah. So even from that, let's say, evaluation perspective of ESG reports, this is the starting point. Of course, I need to spend some energy, sometimes less, sometimes way more. But this is where begins that counting. That, let's say, for that supplier of that waste, of course, he capitalized that leftover. So they are finishing until they sold that waste. But I'm starting from not from their beginning, but from my beginning. Of course, afterwards, I have to set all those data based on this business model. Yeah, but of course, it depends.
What would you say, from your perspective, from marketing and from the general point of view, what are the key things to take over from this decision, from discussion, to point out what's the most important to focus on, as a, for example, from your perspective as a marketer, and from perspective, for example, as a CEO, directive, and top management? What would you say are the most key bullet points?
I think to set the philosophy first, to be sure that everything is not from the directive, but to have the right mindset in this case, and everything will come. I'm very optimistic in this case because I think many of businesses, for example, SMEs as well, can do something for the environment and from society, for society. I'm sorry, and it's something what's the measure essence of not only ESG reporting but sustainability as well. So it's something what should be from the philosophy of the business to be sure that we would like to be sustainable and then to manage all these activities which are needed because of the CSRD directive.
Thank you.
Basically, to do it wise. And that, okay, there are some requirements by regulation, but on the other hand, of course, what are the expectations of my business partners? What are expectations of my employees, my finance providers, of course, generally of all my major stakeholders, and of course, because now I am CEO, not in 10 years. Of course, I cannot underestimate the impact on my financial performance. So really, cost versus benefit criterion would be something what's behind all my decisions, and also how to set wisely those KPIs, because of course afterwards I am the one or my company who is supposed to fulfill them. So in case that I will select all possible, sometimes really nonsense criteria, afterwards I will set unrealistic goals because all those goals for KPIs shall be realistic. Of course, majority of them I cannot fulfill within 1 year, so there shall be some long-term run. So be realistic and not sometimes just to tell that within 5 years we would be zero CO2 producers. We wouldn't be. It shall be probably way longer, especially under current, let's say, energy mix, etc., etc. So I guess this is the key point, that do it wisely. This is probably the most important.
This is from my interview part, but I would like to now continue with the short discussion about all open-minded questions or topics that you have in mind. Because first, for me, I would like to start with one intriguing example of ESG reporting, that ESG standards look on products as well, not from the perspective of how they are produced, how many emissions are produced during its process, but also how do they affect in their life cycle the environmental. We have companies, for example, like Philip Morris, which is producing extremely unhealthy products that damaging health of all the people or the consumers, and also the environment because of the smoke and all the necessary stuff that's in it. But this, for example, company supposed to be in the ESG reporting. How does this company, even though they are making something that it's extremely dangerous for people and environmental as well, they're gonna make ESG report?
They should be truthful from my point of view. And for example, automobile industry is not clear and will not be clear as well in the production process. So I think it's necessary to identify these problems they have and how to manage them to maybe decrease this impact. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. It would be about lowering the current harm. That let's say now it's what you told really bad. That let's say the damaging index it's 100. Target it's just 80 or 70 in 5-10 years run. That there would be let's say some more healthy elements. Sounds really bad considering we are dealing with smoke. But let's say it would be less lungs destroying components will be within those e-cigarettes or whatever products. I don't know how it works. I finished smoking when I was in 5th grade, so for me it's a bit hard. But yes, actually, those KPIs would be about the lowering of the harm. It wouldn't be about how brave am I. It would be really about how I'm improving this. again, maybe in that S part, maybe how they are helping, for example, smokers with cancer, or let's say people who do not smoke with cancer, because theoretically they might, or with cancer of lungs. So this might be part of their S activities as well, I believe.
So there are possible types that should, for example, this company or the others do for the S part, because this is where should they be focusing probably.
And basically considering that Philip Morris is listed company, so they are already issuing, or they already issued their first ESG report based on CSRD. So yes.
I was focusing, that's why I kind of brought it up, because they were truthful, and I was trying to see if we can, like, you never seen it, and that's why I brought it up. If we, as the academic perspective or the business perspective, can we see if they actually do it? And yes, these things that you mentioned, they were in the ESG report. How we are trying to minimize the people who are trying to smoke or starting smoking, that we are trying to stop smoking, that we try to do the downtrend, actually, which is killing their business. But from the perspective of the ESG, they are trying to do this, so helping curing, helping with addiction stuff, and everything else. So, and yet the ESG report is short and pretty nice, because people can easily orient it. And do you think that other companies should have some forms of ESG reports, or it's up to them how they should make it?
Basically, the length of the report, it's not standardized. Let's say, of course, again, it depends on the mindset that, for example, if one is historically focused on continental reporting, where everything is nicely structured, compared to, let's say, the Anglo-Saxon logic, where basically there is just the minimum set of requirements for example, balance sheet or statement of financial position, income statement, and afterwards I have very wide notes. So actually that CSRD goes through that, let's say, IFRS or US GAAP point of view, that it doesn't have the structure. For example, for those SMEs that in case I will expect there in the future that they will be also under this directive, I guess for them rather makes sense some structured report. And when we had discussion with those SMEs representatives, of course, in case there would be some templates, this is something for what they are looking for. And even when we spoke with representatives from Czech Business Chamber or Association of SMEs, their members, they are asking for if they have some, let's say, guidance, and especially in case that those guidelines would be in certain, let's say, trustful, let's say, source or nějaký úložiště prostě. So afterwards it would be for them something dafür steht bei meinem Namen.
The report should be based on their data they have first, and maybe authorities in industry or in the area or field of their entrepreneurship. It's something what can be important to support these small businesses or medium businesses as well. So they can help them and make something like template and they can better prepare the ESG report.
Is there anything else you would like to discuss? Something that you have on mind that wasn't said and should be definitely heard by the listeners?
No.
Yes, that the majority of the podcast would be available if you pay at a Hero.
Thank you so much for coming here. If you would be interested in knowing more information from our guests, their bios and contacts will definitely be in the description. Thank you for attending as the ESG, for the ESG experts in ESG accounting, for the LIAISE Action project, which I think Cost Action is definitely trying to help us to more understand it and dig deeper to get the knowledge. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you also.